Okay, thought what I would cover today is how to set up Maya for Mental Ray and how to set up Photometric Lights. So one of the first things you're going to do for Maya is you're going to have to download Mental Ray. Mental Ray doesn't come with Maya. It's free plugin for Maya, and so you'll need to go over and to download it. Okay. And so here's a link. You can just do a search for Mental Ray plugin for Maya 2016, and it's free. Just come over here, and then there's links in here that you can click to download it. There's one for Linux. You're probably not using that. Some of you might be using Maya on Mac. There's one for it, and then of course here's the one for Windows. And I'm on a Windows, so that's what I would do is download that. So you click on that and download it. Okay. All right, then to install it, what will happen is you'll download that file, and it's an executable, and then you'll want to run this file. Now, this file doesn't install Mental Ray. It just installs the setup for Mental Ray into a folder. So you'll just run this and set it into a folder, and then once it's set into a folder, you'll come in here and you'll double-click on the setup, and it'll go through and it'll install Mental Ray for you. Now, when you're installing it, you don't have to be out of Maya, but you have to restart Maya after you install it. So you might as well just shut Maya down, run the installation, and then you can open Maya. Okay, so when you come in here to turn Mental Ray on, you're going to go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, then you're going to come down to the Plugin Manager. Okay, you'll open this up, and then what you're going to do is scroll down. Okay, you're going to scroll down to this section right here, and you'll see it says Mental Ray for Maya right there. And this Maya to MR, Maya to Mental Ray is how you load it. So you're going to click on to load it here, and then go ahead and click on Auto Load. That means that every time you open up Maya that it will load, and now you've got it loaded. Okay, so then you'll need to come to Windows, Render Editors, your render settings. So Windows, Render Editors, Render Settings. And then this is where you'll switch to Mental Ray right here. So your Maya software, you're going to switch to Mental Ray, and then you're set up and ready to go. Okay. You've got quality settings here that will kick up at a certain point to get a better quality. Now there's a button right here that says Show Advanced Settings, because by default, Final Gather, you can't get to it. If you click on this Show Advanced Settings, then you can get to some of the legacy options, and you can get into Global Illumination, Final Gather. But really, the way that Maya 2016 is set up, you probably don't need to get into that. It's pretty much set up for us, so we can just go here. All right. Okay, so that's pretty much how you need to set Maya up for Mental Ray. When you come up to your rendering, then you'll see that your render is already set up for Mental Ray. Now, my default working is 720p, so in our render settings on your Common tab, you want to go down here. It defaults to 540, and I normally work at 720p. That's my normal working relationship, and then if I want to really kick out high end, which I do sometimes, then I'm going to 1080p. But we're going to go 720. That's what I want you to be doing your work in. Okay, so now let's talk about photometric lights. Okay, we use photometric lights because they're physically accurate. Most other lights inside of here are not physically accurate, and we want to use physically accurate lights. So you're going to go to your render tab. We want to use an area light. We don't want spotlights. We don't ambient lights. We want an area light. So go ahead and click on area light. And so your area light will come in here, and then we'll want to move that up. Okay. And we'll just kind of move it. Let's go ahead and rotate it up. So we'll want it minus 90. And we'll just keep it centered. Actually, let's move it a little bit in front of the sphere, so we'll slide it right about here. Now, we won't see any attributes. We won't see the lighting in here till you turn it on. You have to go right up here. We want to go ahead and turn on textured files, and we want to go ahead and turn on lights, and then we want to go ahead and turn on shadows so we can see the shadows, so we can actually see the light, interactive and making shadows. Okay. All right, so if we render now, go in here and render. What we're going to get is a typical area light, which is fine, okay, but we want to make this so it's more realistic, okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this area light and we're going to customize it, make it into a photometric light. Okay, so to do that, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can actually use the material editor to do it with. I don't normally do it this way. It's a huge interface for what I need to do. So what I'm going to come up here is in my node editor, okay. Your node editor allows you just to get to the area, to the nodes that we need. So like you can see, this is what we have in here right now. Is there's my area light node. That's the shape node. Okay, now I want to add to this. I want to add 2 nodes that will make our photometric node. So I'm just going to right click here and I'm going to go create a new node. And this window is going to pop up. Okay, now if you don't have Mental Ray installed, you won't see a Mental Ray tab in here. So you got to make sure you have Mental Ray installed and you've got Mental Ray on, then you'll see all the Mental Ray information here, their materials and such. We're going to go right here to Mental Ray Lights, and these are our different parts. Now we need 2 things. We need this MIA Photometric Light, so click on that, okay. That'll load us one of those, okay. And then the other one we need is this MIB CIED. That is the actual Kelvin node that's going to have the light being controlled by a Kelvin setting, which is what real lights are. So if we go to Home Depot and we buy a 60-watt light, if you look on the side of it, it'll have a Kelvin rating on it, which is a temperature, but it also determines the color of it. So instead of just dialing in wild colors, which is what people do all the time, we're going to use real colors that real lights would be, okay? So those are the 2 nodes that we need, okay, to make this into a photometric light, okay? So all you have to do right now is just click on the light, and then its attributes will come up over here, okay? Now, let's get rid of that one. We just need one, okay. The area light shape here. Now, on this, here's our normal controls for the light, okay? So here's your intensity of the light, okay? We've got set to area light. This is the color of the light. These are your normal controls. Now, as soon as we make this to a photometric light, these controls no longer work, okay? They'll still work in your viewport. You'll be able to, set the intensity of viewport, but they don't control anything as far as the light itself when it's rendered, okay? All right, now you'll see that since we have Mental Ray on now, we have a Mental Ray tab in here, okay? So we're going to open that. There's all kinds of settings under this Mental Ray tab, okay? And I'm just going to close them all right now and just look at them one by one, okay? So the Mental Ray tab is open. Now there's really just 2 that we really need to get into at any given point. One is this area light node, and we'll come back to that. And the other one is the custom shaders, okay? And this is where we load our photometric. So all you have to do is come over here on this photometric, use your center mouse button, click and hold down and drag right here where this says light shader on the word and let go of it, and that'll drop it in there. Now, I want to do that same thing again, center mouse button, drop over here on the photon emitter, and I want the same one loaded in here. So don't click on these buttons to go load a photometric, because then you'll have different ones. I have one that controls both of these, and that's what I want, okay? So now if I click on my photometric node, now here's my photometric node, okay? And this determines things like colors, the brightness, and everything. Really, all we need to do to prep this node, because we're going to drive it with this MIB CIE to do the intensity and the color. All we really need is right here where this is manual peak intensity. We need to set this up for a setting of 1, okay? That's all we need is a setting of 1. Then we don't have to mess with the rest of this, okay? What we're going to do now is we're going to come in and do the same thing where we're going to center click on this node and drag it and drop it into this color slot right here, okay? And so now that node, so the way that this light works is this MIB CIE is the actual color and intensity. The photometric gives it fall off attributes. Okay, and the area light gives the shadow the attributes that we want, okay? So, let me explain to you a little bit about these temperature, okay? This is the actual temperature, like how hot something is, okay? And this confuses people a little bit with color theory, because in color theory, when we're talking about cool, we're talking about blue. And when we're talking about warm, we're talking about yellows and oranges. But in temperature, it's the opposite. The hottest flame that you would never want to put your hand in is a blue flame. A blue flame is extremely hot. Yellow flames are not as hot. Not that you'd ever want to put your hand in a flame, but I'm just saying that blue is hotter, okay? So the way this temperature works is 6500 is white, okay? So that's white light. Now, if we render right now, see, we're seeing light in here, but if we render right now, we're going to get hardly any light in here because we don't have the intensity set up any, okay? So it kind of throws people off when they first render, they think something's set up wrong. No. If I come in here and I'm going to give this a setting of 20 right now, which still won't be bright enough, but we'll start to see something in our render here. You'll see we're starting to get some light, okay? If I come in here and put 60, then we're getting more light, okay? So we're going to go all the way up to, say, maybe 120. So it's pretty bright right now. So we can see colors. Now, 6500 is pretty much white. We go up, say, 8,000, then you're going to be into a blue range. And so it's going to start tinting the light blue. See the slight tint of blue in there? Okay. Now, normally, a normal light range, unless you're doing some kind of specialty light, you would probably never go over 9,000 for a color temperature of a normal light that would be in a room. Now, you do get into situations where specialty lights, like you can get to some octinate lights and specialty metal halide lights for aquariums where they will go up to 20,000. I mean, they go really high, and this will give you a really blue light, but that's not normal. Okay. That's not a normal setting. So you normally don't want to go over, say, 9,000, and a normal range would be maybe around 7,000 or so for a blue tinted light. Okay. Now, that's more like a metal halide light. If we want to go more towards a incandescent lights, they're warmer, or like a sodium light, we're going to drop this down to, say, around 4,800, and that's going to make our light shift more to an orange range, okay, more of an amber range, a warmer light, okay? So this is how you want to control the color temperature of your lights. Those little color pickers that are inside of, your typical color picker. We'll go back to our area light here. This typical color picker, and you want to make blue lights and stuff. This is not a normal light. A normal light, there's no such thing as a green light. Doesn't exist. Now, here's the thing I want to show you, though. We're going to turn this green light on here, and then we're going to render. And we're back out on the area light. And you'll see it didn't change the light. It didn't turn it green because none of these work. Okay, they're being overwritten by these. Okay, so it kind of throws people off. Just, you need to leave these. You want to leave this on white, so it just doesn't throw you off. So in your viewport, but this intensity and all this just shows up in the viewport, but it does not show up in our light here. Okay, so at this point, to control this light, all we need is this node right here. This node, the color temperature, and the intensity of the light is all that we need. Okay. So we're going to change this back to 6,500. Now, see how hard this shadow is? That's the last thing that we got to set, which is part of this area light node. Okay. I'm sorry, not the area light node, but this photometric node. The photometric node, you can kick a multiplier up in here. You can kick intensity up in here. But I would tell you it's easier just to keep all of that and control it in here. Okay, on this area light node, right here where this is area light, we need to tell it to use the light shape. What's happening right now is the light is coming from the vertex that's in the center of this panel. It's not coming from the whole panel. It's coming from the center. It's like a point light. Really, light doesn't do that. Light doesn't come from a single point like this. And that's why we have this harsh shadow. We want to tell it to use the light shape. Okay, now the light is going to come from this entire piece, and it's going to give me what's called an area shadow, an area light shadow, which is a soft shadow like this. This is more of a natural shadow. Okay, now you have different shapes. We can do disc. You have different shapes that you can make this, and then of course you can scale this light up. Okay, so if we go to our scale, we can actually scale the light. Okay. I can grab it. Okay. We can scale the light up, and that controls intensity as it gets bigger, and it also makes for a softer shadow. since the light is coming from that whole panel, the bigger the panel, the softer the shadow. The smaller the panel, the harder the shadow. Okay, so there's one of our lights. Okay, so what we'll do is let's go ahead and we'll just name this light, and we're going to go here and we're going to call this light, this is our main light. Okay, and this is our control for that, so we're going to call this our main light control. If I can spell. Guess I can't spell. HT, main light control. Okay, and so that's the node we know that controls our color and our intensity, and this is our main light where we can get to our quality of our shadows, okay, and the shape, okay. So now what we can do is let's just go ahead and take this light and we're just going to copy it. So Control C, Control V, and that makes us another light, okay. And that's it right there. Okay, you see pasted. So we're going to move that one over, put this one back where it was. And so we're going to call this one, let's make this a cool light. Okay, so this is going to be our blue light. And what we're going to do is put a blue light and a warm light in here. So we'll just move this down and then we're going to start rotating it to face our object. Okay. And let's go ahead and let's go to a front view, let's go to top view. And let's rotate this around so it's facing us. And just kind of move this. Okay. So back to our perspective view. And we've got it rotated around backwards, it's facing the wrong way. Let's rotate that again. Put it backwards. There we go. Okay. All right, so it's facing at it. So now we're going to go ahead and okay, let's go ahead and clear this board. This button right here clears the board. Okay, so we're going to pick this light and click this button will bring it up. Okay, there it is. And so main light, this is our blue light. And then this is our blue light control. Blue light control. Okay, so 7800, that sounds about right. We won't want this one as bright. We'll take it down some. And see what we got here. Okay, so now we have a little bit of a blue tint coming from this direction, white light coming from the top. Okay, so let's go ahead. We're going to clear again, and let's go ahead and copy this one again. Let's go ahead and go to the top view and Control C, Control V, and to move. Okay, there's the blue one again. Okay, so we'll have this one. We'll go ahead and take this one and kind of point back from the other direction. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the, let's go to the front view. Rotate this. Let's go ahead and move it down a little bit. Okay, and so then we can graph this one too. Let's go ahead and clear it. Graph that. So now this will be our warm light. And this is our warm light control. Okay, and we're going to have to take this one down. We'll go maybe 4800 on this one, and let's make it really dim, maybe 15 on its intensity. Okay, and then that's going to give us a little bit of a warm light coming from here. Okay, let's make a new perspective view, and let's kind of get in on it here. Let's switch to that view. Render. And so that's how you set up photometric lights. Okay, then I can go in here, you know, I want a better render. This is all just at default settings, which are okay. They're not great settings, but just for doing initial setup, they're fine. Like this object, we're going to want more subdivisions on this, maybe 100, so we don't see the faceting on it. And we want to put some shaders in here, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to use the node editor again. You can use the material editor, that's fine. I'm just going to go in here, create a node. Mental ray materials, I'm going to get this Mia, and I'm going to get 2 of them. Okay, we need 2 of them. We'll make one of these for our ground. So this is our ground shader. So I'll pick the ground and apply this shader to it. Apply that to it. And then I'm going to pick my sphere and I'll apply this one to that. This will be our sphere shader. Okay, let's make them not so reflective on the sphere. Let's go for maybe a 0.4 on reflectivity, maybe 0.4 on our glossiness, maybe 32 samples, so the quality's pretty good. On our ground, let's turn this down. We don't want to be reflective hardly at all. Let's go for maybe a 0.2 and a 0.2 for glossiness. 16 on our samples. That doesn't have to be as high quality. So now I'm using physical based shaders on this as well. Okay, so photometric lights, we're using the CIE to give us a Kelvin rating on the temperature, and then we're using mental ray shaders. Okay, now I'm going to pause this while it renders. Okay, there's the render with physically accurate shaders on it. Let's turn the quality up a little bit. So if you go up here to Windows, Render Editors, Render Settings, okay, under Quality, overall quality right here, we're going to turn this to 2, and then we're going to re-render, and I'm going to pause it while I'm rendering. Okay, so there's a better quality render once I put the render settings up at a higher setting. Now, one thing I used to drive me up the wall about Maya is I would do this nice rendering and I see this serrated edge, and I'm like, man, how can I not make that better? And what's happening is that this display window is not up big enough, and so it's making the image down smaller, and that's why it's looking nasty. Once I open it up, then it's a nice clean render. So when you're making this down smaller, it's having to interpret this as smaller, and you'll get some serrations and some funny things into it. But if you pull it out, you'll see it's a nice quality render. Okay, so that's pretty much it. So the main thing was to show you how to download Mental Ray plugin and go ahead and install that. So like I said, you decompress this, it'll install it into a folder, then run setup. Then you'll have to relaunch Maya after you do that. And then going under Windows, Settings and Preferences under your plugin manager, then you'll come down here, this Maya to Mental Ray, and load that. And then you'll have the Mental Ray renderer loaded, and you'll be able to utilize that. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helped you, and that you understand how to use photometric lights now. Okay. Thank you very much.